So there are 4 parts. The first part is talking about the success of the pilot. Part 2 is the mentoring discussion. Part 3 is analyzing the program, and part 4 is moving forward. So for starters, we're going to talk about the success of the pilot. So does anyone have some positive results that came from the pilot program? Leah, do you want to start off?
Sure.
Okay.
So, what was the question?
Some positive results of the pilot program.
Well, I liked that the mentees were able to establish relationships with mentors, and just it really seemed to help the morale of the company. You know, the building friendships and unity, and I don't know, it just seemed like everybody was generally more content and happy to be there, you know, to stay at the bank and work for the bank.
Those are good. Does anyone else have any? Y'all can just...
Okay. I do.
Okay, Blue.
Well, it seems like they helped each other. So even though like the mentor was supposed to be mentoring the mentee, but a lot of the mentors actually got help from their mentees and got ideas about like going back to school and other things. So they kind of benefited from each other, you know, instead of just the mentor helping the mentee. It would seem like it went both ways.
Yeah. Those are good. Those are all the main ones they mentioned. Sorry, who's...
Well, I think the morale went up too. You know, because when that one guy got into the company, he said the morale was horrible, you know, and it's kind of stuffy and stuff. So I think that in the fact that the morale went up because people felt like they were finally getting somewhere, I think that helped a lot because they weren't just at a standstill job. They actually had places that they could go now, and they had avenues that they could look at.
Several of them got promotions, it sounded like, as well. It said 7 of the 25 had got promotions.
Mm-hmm. So why do you think that there were such positive results in the pilot?
Because the business decided to take an interest into their own employees instead of those of the new hire. Because in the new hire, like the one lady said, you know, they're already getting mentored as they get in here. Attention to the employees that they had, and the employees that they had, some of them had been with the company for, you know, 20 plus years. Felt like they weren't getting anywhere. Thought they'd go out and get another job. So I think they were trying to really look internally in order to incorporate a better company and make it grow together instead of just all over the place.
Do you think it helped that Rubenstein was involved in this process, like when he was when needed?
I do. I think she had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
I think it was really a positive thing too, because it was voluntary. And a lot of time when we volunteer for something, we're vested in it, means we have an interest in it. Mm-hmm. So we're going to put forth our best to pull the most from something as well.
Exactly. Also, it mentions those were some of the things they mentioned, but also the matching process was a huge factor in why it was so successful, and that they really took the time to figure out who should go with who, not just whatever. Let's see. So what else do you think would have helped the program go well? Gavin, do you have anything?
I don't. We got nothing. You guys covered everything I had written down as notes.
We're done. It says some examples can include mentor and mentee training, support from management, but I feel like they already had those things. So what do y'all think?
In some ways they had it, but like the one lady that went through the program, she said that she felt like her mentor, you know, the manager of her department was not on board with her going to to the mentoring part. And so she felt like, okay, wait a minute, you know, I'm getting friction from over here at work because I'm gone for 2 days out of a week, you know, or 2 days out of the month because I'm going to this mentor program. So she felt like she was getting, you know, not help from her own department, but yet she was getting more help, you know, from the other end. So that was a conflict right there. Some managers were not on board. They're like, oh, I want you at work. That's it.
Yeah, that's true. And some of them weren't like getting to complete their actual work because of the trainings as well.
Right.
So I guess that could be improved. Were you going to say something, Leah, or someone? It looked like someone was going to say something. Maybe not.
Well, I was just going to ask, do you think that they weren't on board, or do you think that they did not properly train management to sell them on the program so that they also were vested in this program and supportive to their reports? You know, I don't know.
That's a really good possibility. I think a lot of times
Yeah.
communication in large corporations, you know, things don't get funneled down properly, and managers are like, "What are you doing? You know, and what is this? And no, you're supposed to be here working." You know,
Yeah.
you know, the executives want this. This is, you know, the priority. So better communication for sure with the managers.
That's good. How can mentoring help employees with career development?
I think it
Because they have
depends.
somebody to go to. Go ahead, Kevin.
I think that depends on like the type of company you're in, because some companies could have a program, but then it might not have been around when some managers were originally hired, if they've been there if they have like a 10-year time there. And so like they could look at those little, like the people coming up as maybe having an advantage over them, or they could, that's my experience is like while I was at FedEx, I attempted to like move up, and they had like this management program, and it was all based off of like a mentor. So my mentor was super helpful, but then when I would go to get help from other people in their same level position, they weren't super excited to help me because they knew that I was essentially trying to take over their job if they were asleep or if they weren't. So they weren't like super excited that I was, you know, trying to better myself kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
that's tough.
This threat, people, you know, feel threatened in their jobs. You know, oh, so and so's moving up, trying to learn everything, take
So
over.
it's good for yourself, but maybe not so good for other people.
Yeah, like the managers who were like helpful and nice, you know, they were really interested in getting people to move up. But then the managers who, you know, weren't very good or who maybe didn't like their job in the first place, they struggled with helping people.
Do you think that the way the bank did it with 2 grade pays different helped though? Because you wouldn't feel as threatened if somebody's a couple of levels below you.
I think the bank was, you know, that's a different situation than FedEx. That looked a little more appetizing to like help someone come up.
Yeah.
Huh.
I thought that was interesting too, because no one likes to like be mentored by someone that's at their level, because they're like, well, what makes you better than I am? But I was thinking
Yeah.
like, oh, if someone was 2 pay grades above me, I would just automatically assume that they know more than me. But
Those are good.
I don't know. I just thought that was interesting too. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to part 2. So what other approaches or programs might help employees to develop their careers? Or have y'all seen any of these in your own personal jobs?
I really like everything that they talked about in there about the education, you know, encouraging improved education.
Yeah.
I like that.
My uncle, there was a program at his work where they helped him, and that was probably one of the only reasons he ever went back to school, was because they offered help in, you know, flexible schedules and stuff like that, to where they made it possible so it wasn't so stressful to do it. And when they're the ones implementing it, you know, they can't really get mad at you and you're like, I have school, you know. So I thought that was a good idea too.
I think more and more companies are going to that though, trying to help people get their education. Because when my dad got his job with the government, I mean, they paid for all his education for, gosh, I don't know, like 5, 6 years. You know, he was gone on weekends. Sometimes he was gone for like 1 and 2 weeks at a time, you know, to go to school and learn all that he needed to know. So with them being invested in that education, I think that they want to see you grow with the company and also use what they've given you, you know, to go further, to help others.
I worked for Wells Fargo Bank for many years in their customer service, and I also worked in their IRA department, and they also had the tuition reimbursement program. My brother got a job there just for that reason. I helped him get the job there, but he was able to get his whole undergraduate degree just through their tuition reimbursement program. But it's very, very nice for a lot of people who are trying to further their education.
Mm-hmm.
In your experience, do the companies require, like if they pay for your education, do they require like you commit to staying there for so long, or, you know, because if they're going to make that investment, they don't want you to leave?
Not necessarily. I think they're hoping. But yeah, there was no like contract that you had to stay there. But a lot of, like, I worked for at a temp agency for a while, and I worked for E-Trade, and but a lot of people that worked there, they would actually pay for them to take the there's like certain tests they have to take, but they would pay for the courses and the materials, and sometimes they'd be taking the test 3 or 4 times. I know I tried a couple times at Wells Fargo and I just couldn't pass it, and I was just like, forget it, I'm not doing this for a career anyways. So, but yeah,
I feel like I have heard of employees that, you know, well, we'll pay for this, but if you leave within a certain amount of time, then you have to pay us back, you know. I don't know.
I had my insurance license before I started my own thing. I was offered like a job, but they said, okay, we'll pay for your like insurance license classes and tests as long as you stay with us for a year, or like just like you said, otherwise you have to pay us back the amount, kind of thing. But then I decided to do my own thing. But anyways, that was like one of the incentives was, we'll help you get hired, we'll help you get certified to sell health insurance and life insurance. And then we'll pay for it all, but you have to contractually stay with us, which is a good incentive because they offer, you know, since it's basically commission only, you know, the incentives are really healthy. So
yeah. Well, and in the CNA department, in the CNA, if you could do CNA, a lot of times they'll have you, they'll train you and everything, but they want like a 1 or 2 year commitment. I have a friend that went through that, and she had to commit to 2 years. Now, after the 2 years, she could go anywhere that she wanted to, but she didn't have to pay him back. But if she left within that 2 years, for however long it was under that contract, like let's say she left it, 18 months and she still had another 6 months to go, she'd have to pay back the 6 months. So medical field, you gotta watch it.
Seems like the incentives are usually worth it, though. In the end, I would think.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she got a better job because she went on to be an RN, and now she's a home nurse, and so she travels.
Okay, that's cool.
So,
wow. Have y'all had any experience with being a mentor, either like informal or formal, or being mentored?
I've kind of had an experience recently at my work. The manager wants me. I do the bookkeeping for a warehousing company. And the manager wants me to train one of the other girls on QuickBooks. And anyway, at first it kind of took, I only work there part-time and I kind of just do it as a hobby. So, but at first I was like, how come she wants me to do this? Are they trying to push me out the door, And then she made the comment, she said, somebody took the time to mentor me and teach me what I know. So I think we should, try to do that for her as well. And I got to come back on all my past experiences and people that have taken the time to teach me things, and how nice it is. And, I don't know, just kind of an interesting little at first I was just thinking about me, and then kind of shifted my outlook on it. It made me realize, yeah, I wouldn't be who I am today without all of the people that have taken the time to help me, and train me, and teach me. So.
Well, it makes me think of that girl in the article that said she had been mentored since she was like 18 years old or something, and then was like, you know what, that's the least I could do is mentor someone else, because, yeah, like exactly what you said, she wouldn't have been who she was if it wasn't for that person that mentored her.
Right. Who believed in me, who, thought I could do more than just be a file. So.
Anyone else have any experiences?
I don't know. I signed up for the mentoring program through BYU Idaho once I got on to the online program, and the my mentor reached out to me like a couple times, but I never knew what to ask him. I'm like, he's like, "What can I help you with?" I'm like, "I don't know," So I don't think I knew how to utilize him. Like I really didn't. I asked him a couple of questions about what he did, and but told him a little bit about what I was planning, but
So it would have been
really had no
to
idea.
have more direction, maybe.
Yeah, as a mentee, I think, because I had no idea how to utilize him, and then I think we corresponded like twice, and that was it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it just wasn't. It wasn't very helpful, is what I'm trying to say. It was. Yeah.
There was no training.
Yeah.
On either of your parts, I'd say.
No.
I'm wondering if it would have been more helpful, like if there was like how the article was talking about how there's like 4 hours a month where, you discuss just everything that you're doing and training and stuff like that, rather than just like call me when you need me kind of thing.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe he was doing training, but I didn't have any training on how to utilize a mentor. So I was like, I don't know what to do with you.
Yeah.
So.
Naomi, were you going to say something?
Well, I taught English, and so I mentored a lady who was Spanish, and, that was a good experience for me because I learned a little bit more about her. But at the same time, she was just so thankful that somebody took the time to help her to learn how to speak English, to communicate with people, because in her job that she was at, most of them spoke English and she spoke very little, and they asked her to take this program. And so I signed up to be a mentor. All in all, it was a good thing, but we got to the point to where, we would talk to each other like 3 or 4 times a week, and now we're really good friends. And I always ask her, how's it going? And she says, just fine. And sometimes she'll call and say, well, I don't know what this means. And so I'll explain it to her. So it's been a long relationship, and it's been, going on now for 3 years. And so, I was happy with it, just to be able to teach somebody and help somebody through something.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I did do that. I helped after I became online student. I helped somebody that was still in Pathway program. She's from Mexico City, and just helped her every week with her English and stuff, did quizzes, and just as a volunteer. So I guess I did do a mentoring thing with her, and we still keep in touch. We're Facebook friends, but yeah. It's nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. I guess you don't realize how many informal ways you're mentoring people.
Yeah. Well, that one actually had like it had like a paper that you followed every week, and directions and instructions. And so you would go, I'd ask her questions, and then I'd quiz her on stuff. But it was all laid out, like what I was supposed to do, what she was supposed to do. And so that made it easier, especially because there was a language barrier. But
yeah, so having more guidelines obviously does help then, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's cool. Does anybody else have anything? I think everyone else has pretty much shared. So we'll move on to part 3, which is analyzing the program. So it's kind of about what we were just talking about, but do you think less formal mentoring would be even better, where mentees are free to find whatever mentors they need to help them progress in their careers? or do you think it's better to be assigned to someone?
I think that's kind of like there's like two very different ways of doing it, and they could have like good and bad things on both sides. Like if you go with pick your own, someone might not know what they necessarily need to be mentored for, so they don't know. They might go to someone thinking like, oh, that person seems nice, but that person may not have a clue how to mentor or want to mentor. So they may go to another person who really wants to mentor but could be terrible at it. And so you kind of have to, I think maybe matching people up is a lot easier when you're like brand new to the company. You don't know anybody. You're really not too sure who it is. You only have like 10 people maybe in your office, 20 people you could choose from. It'd be a lot easier just to match people up and be like, okay, this is your person. Because that way that person's volunteering. They know what they're doing. They know what they're getting into. They're not just going up to some random person like, hey, you want to, can you be my mentor? And they're like, no, leave me alone. Don't talk to me. Then that sets up a whole new issues and problems. So that's happened to me. I asked someone, they're like, no, get out of here. You're not worth it. And I was like, oh, okay, this is a horrible company. I'm out.
I personally think it's better to assign them. I don't know. This is what Gavin was saying. I think sometimes we just get so focused on what it is we're, get in, get the job done, and get out. We don't even take an opportunity to look around and look for opportunities to help. And I mean, it's just a sad reality. But for me personally, I would do better if somebody just asked me, told me to do it.
I agree. I think it's better to be assigned as well, because I just feel like with my example with my mentor from BYU Idaho, I didn't know what I needed or wanted, but guidelines and having it matched up with somebody, I think that's the best way.
So why do you think a company would prefer a formal mentoring program over just allowing natural relationships to grow?
I think because some people could actually pick a friend in a department and think, well, that's okay. And because they're friends, they think that they're going to be able to mentor, Yeah. It could turn out to be something worse, friction all of a sudden, So I think that having that consultant company, look it over and, kind of check things out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the better approach, because then you don't end up with two peas in the pod and one of them getting thrown out. Looked at it.
Yeah, I felt like it was. Oh, sorry. Go, Marcy.
I just think it's more professional too. Kind of like what everyone has said. When you have someone assigned to you and you're not as comfortable with them, I would be more apt to follow through rather than saying, oh, I had a busy week, I didn't quite get to that.
Yeah.
When it's somebody that's been assigned to you and you've set goals, or you have things that you are supposed to have done or report to, I think the mentee would benefit a lot more from having it matched up, having the guidelines, because it's spelled out. Sometimes when things are informal, it might be more comfortable at first, but I don't know that you'd have the growth that you'd have coming from assignment.
And I feel like it's one of those things, like kind of like the outside looking in. Like if you had your best friend mentoring you, like they might not see those areas that you need to improve on because they're around you so much, and they might have the same problems. But when it's someone that not your best friend that you're working with assigned to you, they can kind of see like exactly what's going wrong. I don't know. Do y'all agree with that?
Definitely. I think maybe they just an idea I just had is that maybe they should have the option that you could, if you really think somebody could help you, that you can request a certain mentor, but it should still be assigned. But I think that there should be like, an option to say, hey, I really think this person would be good for me, and if the committee agrees, then, so be it.
Yeah. I guess that's hard too, because there's so few people that actually volunteer to do it. And then they said that they assign based on the areas that they worked in, right? Like the mentor was in the same department, right?
Yeah.
It said the same building. I don't know that it said the same department.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. Sorry.
Well, maybe.
I don't remember exact wording that they used.
It seemed like some of the relationships, the mentors kind of opened their eyes to other areas of the bank. That's why thinking that maybe it was a little further reach than just their department. But
I thought it was cool that one person that talked about how like they had no experience and their mentor encouraged them to apply anyways, and now they like love their position that they're in, and I thought that was cool because I mean sometimes you just don't know what you're doing and you just need that extra.
I had an opportunity. I had like a learning experience once where I was trying to go into like operations management position, and like I was mentored by somebody, and someone helped me, you know, get through the process you needed to get through to be eligible for the position. And after I learned more about the position, it became very clear that I was not interested in doing that position. But if I would have just applied for it and then like got the job and then been like, oh, this is a horrible job, why did I ever apply for this? But because I like took time to get mentored and to have people show me, I realized like, okay, this is not what I wanted to do. Like I had to sit through like a meeting where they fired an employee, and I felt so bad for the guy. I was like, man, I can't ever fire anybody. This is terrible. Poor person's like his whole life just got mixed, like shook up a little bit. I can't be like, oh, it's all right, we'll just forgive you, and you know, you can crash and hit a car again, no big deal, don't worry about it. But you know, so because I was mentored and went through that process, I was able to see like, okay, I don't want to do this, or yeah, this is a better idea.
So you didn't get stuck in a job that you would have ended up hating, and
yeah, so I thought that was good to be mentored, or at least
plus
get like a taste of what it could be like.
Plus you didn't waste their time, because like if you would have taken the job and then realized like you got trained for it all and then you ended up hating it, then they're like, shoot, you wasted our time. And
yeah,
so that's cool. Okay. What might have been improved in the Federal Reserve Bank program? I feel like we kind of talked about that, but does anyone have anything else? Improvements?
the only thing I was going to suggest, but then they did it at the end of the article or in the follow-up one, was, you know, when they had lower numbers turn out to apply for the second year of the program, they had less than what they thought. I did mention they didn't do as much advertising for it because they thought word of mouth and that it was out there a little bit more, but they could have maybe had those that were mentored, the mentees, I guess, have opportunity to maybe share the positives that they took away from the program. That may have helped, but it sounds like to me, they did so many good things. It was hard to find negatives.
So why do you think less people signed up because they didn't promote it enough, or like show those testimonials earlier on? Or
I wonder if it was two things, if that was part of it, or I wonder if you got the first big group that was a new program and there were people waiting and wanting that kind of a thing, and they were the ones that signed up, and maybe the next level of people that had the opportunity weren't as excited about that opportunity. I don't know, but they needed to share what came from the program, because I think then there would be more interest.
I just found it interesting that they're like, we didn't want to promote it as much because we didn't feel like we needed to, and we didn't want to get a lot of people because we can only accept 30. But then they're like, how come we didn't have so many people sign up? I'm like, well, isn't that what you wanted though, you know?
Yeah.
Like they wanted around 30 and that's what they got. But
I think too that there's, you know, with employees, there's always some disbelief in management, you know, that they're going to follow through and it's going to continue to, you know, it's like, oh, this is just a one-time thing. They're just going to, it'll fizzle out. I don't know, you know, so maybe people were just like, meh, by the second round.
or do you think they felt like discouraged about moving up in like positions? Because it said like 9 people got promotions. So in my mind, if I'm like the second round pick for mentoring, it'd be like, am I even gonna, like, the position I wanted might have already been just recently filled by a new mentee, you know? So like, what's the point of getting mentored if
they might have they could have had like a huge influx of people sign up for the first round and then maybe get in and be like, oh, this isn't maybe not for me, or I don't like this. And then, but then the people who are really into it kept going. And then they got those people. That's why there were so few in the second round, because maybe a lot of those people dropped off and were like, this isn't my favorite thing, or this is not what I expected, kind of a thing. And then you have that huge group going into the third round too. They had a strong showing in the third group, because if you make it past the second round, you're probably going to go to the third round.
Did it say if anyone dropped out of the program? I don't remember reading that. I wonder if anybody did.
I don't think so.
There was one group that they didn't get along, but they worked through it. It sounded like, and it ended up being positive. But
The one where like the other mentees were like, "No, don't give up."
Yeah,
And then,
yeah. Her peers were trying to tell her, don't give up. We're backing you, and we'll be here for you. And because I think sometimes you could get put in with the wrong person, and then your personalities just don't click. And even though they're trying to help you, and you're trying to say, okay, I understand, you're trying to help me, backfire. And so I think with them stepping in and saying, don't give up, it did help that person, get through the program. But you kind of wonder sometimes, like when the mentoring program was over, because the senior managers were not kind of on board, in their own departments. They weren't told. So I think they had some, discrepancies in there as to, well, if this is going to affect the person in my department and his job, and he's going to be gone for this amount of time, maybe I don't want that. So discouragement. I think the best way to do it is to have a big round meeting of everybody to say, this is what we're going to put out. Here's the testimonials from the time before, and have people that were actually in that program, testify to what they went through, how they started out, how they ended up. I think those are things that people look at to find out, okay, well, maybe that's for me. It's kind of like the Pathway program. When you go to a fireside, they bring in people that have been through the Pathway program, and, they tell you where they were, how they got there, and where they're going. I think if you have that approach, then people can see kind of where it's going instead of, well, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely could have done more to keep the momentum going. Just, simple advertising, and what Naomi is describing as well, and just really needed it.
So how do you encourage people, since it's voluntary, how do you encourage those people to get mentors that truly need it? Because sometimes the mentor or the people that need the mentoring the most aren't going to volunteer and don't do it. So how do you encourage them to sign up for the program?
I think
use
you need
money.
That's what I was thinking. Incentive.
Man, I give you like a big bonus. If you sign up, you get X amount of money. You would have so many people sign up, but then you would have to say, in order to get the bonus, you have to make it through the round, or you have to make it through the whole program. Because that way you wouldn't have people dropping out. That's what money always motivates everybody.
Mm-hmm.
would it be as effective though in the long term?
That's what I was wondering as well.
I think that's part of the reason this program was so effective. But
Well, I
I
think
think
getting the managers on board too, and having them encourage, certain employees that need it to do it, I think that might make a big difference.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing is being able to show, them that they can go into different departments. They're not stuck in the one department that they're in. So, like the one that really didn't do anything for her department, and then come to find out, she liked to market, she liked to do art, and so she finally found her glitch, in the business finally, and then she felt like, okay, now I can do my job. Where before it was like, oh, I'm at a 9-to-5 job and I really don't care.
Yeah.
So I think the avenues open up.
So how do you think how do you think they can encourage those people though that aren't doing it, just by telling them their experiences and saying that everyone can benefit even if you don't think that you need it? Because there are those people that are like, nah, I know everything, and really they don't.
it reminds me of when I used to teach young women, and sometimes you'd have a specific lesson in mind for a certain girl or two, and you could just see in their eyes that they're thinking, I hope that that girl 2 chairs down from me is listening to this. You know, that's just exactly what you're saying. That's where I like Blue's suggestion of having maybe a manager pull someone aside and just say, hey, this program's been really beneficial. Have you considered it? You know, and maybe
Yeah.
have a little conversation with them about it.
And I think also it's important that they like mention like, well, is this gonna affect, you know, my performance or like my my ratings and stuff? And they're like, no, this is just strictly extra on the side thing, you know, that'll help you and help, you know, hopefully the company in the future, but this isn't like gonna count against you, you know, if you don't do as well as you think you should or something, you know. So I think that's encouraging too, because I wouldn't want to be like, if they don't tell me, like how Blue said, she wasn't really sure how the program worked with that one guy. And, you know, if you don't know how it works, then you'd be scared that you're going to get rated or you're going to lose your job later because your mentor is going to go and say, no, this guy still didn't improve any. And he's not, you know, benefiting us. But I think it's cool that they pointed that out, that no, like, this is just to help you learn and grow. So maybe they need to promote that more, that it's just strictly training and learning.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting too, did we already talk about this, the difference between, you know, because part of me was sitting here thinking, just tell them they have to go, you know, like if their performance isn't quite right, you know, but then of course that's going back to that whole, it was so successful because it was voluntary.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that fine balance between encouraging and then going after.
And not forcing, yeah.
Yeah.
Want them to feel like it's their choice.
Yeah, nobody likes to be told what to do. I don't know. Sometimes it's in those situations where we have to do something where we, you know, where our eyes are kind of like, we do learn if we choose. Could have, but I don't know.
So it said that like people don't get, it's not like favoritism where if you do the training you get hired or you get promoted. But do you think that like the people that aren't volunteering to be mentored, do you think that they are still getting promoted? Like, do you think that there are more people getting promoted that have been a mentee than those that are choosing to not do it at all?
I think if you have like a company sponsored program and that has the opportunity to like, you know, boost you through the system, it would be a lot, you know, and it would be in your favor to take the program if you wanted to move up. You know, if you didn't want to move up and it's between you who hasn't taken the program and then someone else who has taken the program, they're going to look at the other person a lot more favorable than they would you, just because the other person has shown more dedication, I think, to the company and like, oh yeah, I'm interested in working here long term. I showed it by going to this mentoring process, through the mentoring process.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because it makes me think of like my dad. So he worked at USA for 14 years. And prior to that, tons of experience and has had like managerial experience and things like that and wanted to be promoted. And they're like, oh, why don't you do this, you know, mentoring training and stuff? And he's like, no, I don't need it. Which, you know, everyone can obviously benefit from it. But he's like, I don't need it. I've done this for, you know, 40 years. Like, why do I need more training? And, oh, well, you know, this person got promoted and they're, you know, 25 and they get a position higher than him because they took the training. So it's kind of like, makes me wonder, you know, if sometimes they strictly just look at, you know, well, she went, like you said, the extra mile to get trained. But does that necessarily mean that they're more qualified than those that aren't doing the trainings?
I don't think it's that. I think it's the fact of when the training is done, are you going to stick with what you learned or are you going to let it slide? Mm-hmm. If you're going to take what you learned to a new level and apply that to your job, up in your promotion, you know, against somebody who already knows it, who's been there and does that. But I think then you're kind of on equal basis, and then it's basically down to, you know, who would best fit the job. Or about, you know, well, I want the best fit for the person that's going to be in that position. I mean, my dad didn't have a college degree, and yet he was always he was always taking classes that they gave him, and he moved up. And by the time he was done, he was at the same ranking as a 5-star general college. But he went through all of the training that they offered him and took it and got there, because he said without learning, a lot of times you don't get that benefit of what you're missing.
Mm-hmm. I guess I kind of see it as like, what do you have to lose? You might as well just do it, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you're gonna.
You got nothing to lose, unless you just don't care for the training at all, but you've got nothing to lose. You're not going to lose your job, and they're telling you it's not going to affect your performance. So to me, it's an incentive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gavin's right, though. Sometimes, money kicks in there, and if you give somebody a bonus at the end, that helps, But you could also say, if you're done, when you finish, you could do other incentives, like maybe give them a gift certificate or something, and then say, okay, here's some openings that are available. See which one that you would like to fit into. If you want to transfer into a different department, you're learning, how can you mentor now?
So being that y'all all work, would y'all be willing to be a mentor or a mentee without being paid for it?
I would.
No. Just because of everyone's different, obviously, for like life situations and all that. But like in my state right now, if you were to come to me like, hey, could you mentor this person? Could you teach them how to do? I'd be like, no. I have so much going on. It's like it's so much personal life stuff going on, and then like work. I gotta work here 60 hours a week or whatever crazy amount it is, and then to have to mentor someone on top of that. Unless the bonus was really big, if it was really big. Like okay, maybe I'll think about it.
So even if they did offer you money, you still might be like, no.
Yeah, I still would probably. It would depend on like the situation, like how much time it would require me to put in to help the person.
Yeah.
But that's just me and my personal situation right now.
No, I was just curious what y'all do.
4 hours a month though, and the time was at work. So
that's true. That for the banking situation, that might be worth it.
Yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer. That would be fine. But I agree with you. There's times in my life when lots of little kids at home and stuff, and you're just trying to. I feel busy now, but I don't have anybody at home waiting for me to come back and take care of them too. So
yeah,
I would be mentored or be a mentee.
I'm at a crazy time in my life right now, but I probably would, just because I don't know, that's just me. So I'm don't like to say no to anybody. So I'm like a yes person. So if they say, can you do this? I'll be like, sure.
I can say no to anybody.
Well, I'm not good at saying no, but I'm like the person that says yes. And then I'm like, what am I doing? Why did I say that? I can't do it.
So note to self, ask Blue if you need mentoring help. Unless you're paying him a lot of money. Oh gosh, that was funny. Okay, well, we pretty much have gone over everything, unless anyone else has anything they want to share, but I think we answered and discussed most of it. Does anybody else have anything?
I think you did a great job, Kaylee.
Thanks. It was really short, I promise. It was only 45 minutes total on here, and
we're not arguing.
Yeah, that's fine.
Through.